he's facing more opposition from the councils of the settlements overall, the West Banks. So he's trying to maneuver by announcing this decision, but on the ground he will continue, as you've said, by building the public service offices across these settlements beside the 3,000 units. And ironically, after announcing this decision, Ehud Barak, Israeli Defense Minister, announced that the government would be building 28 schools across the West Bank, which is again contradictory to what was announced. Israel is again trying to maneuver to have the international community beside them, to have the Americans beside them, after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu failed Obama by stopping settlements, and after the attacks by the European Union and the European countries, and the criticism against the Israeli government, which was too radical and fanatical in its positions towards peace process. And one of the Israeli ministers in the government, who was part of Israel Betuna for Avigdor Lieberman, said, we are trying to bring the Palestinians to be the ones who reject the peace process by holding this.
Do you also see, Mr. Habib, that they're trying to, Netanyahu is basically trying to appease the Israelis themselves? I just want to make sure what you just said, as far as the various parties and various perspectives inside of the country, or do you see the move mainly being focused on trying to deal with the international community?
Well, I guess, as I said earlier, he cannot face what's going on in these three parties. So what he's going to do now is to announce it. But on the ground, he cannot face really the radical and fanatical settlers who all the time rejecting the Israeli decisions. And 2 days ago, one of these decisions were just a paper was given to the settlers who torn out these papers and rejected this obviously. So I guess he would not be able to face the settlers on the ground. He would not be able to please them. What Netanyahu would be able to do is to announce this surfacely, but on the ground he would not be able to face them at all.
And Dr. Musa Ali, do you think that the pressure, or will the pressure be on Israel from the international community to change its actions regarding the settlement expansion? And exactly what do you think it will take for that pressure to be exerted on Israel?
Well, if the U.S. is not going to push for a real beginning of a negotiating process, and if the Arab parties themselves are not going to move and pressure Israelis, and if the international and Islamic communities are not going to do anything, which seems the case with the exception of certain powers in the area, obviously today the focus is outside Palestine, on Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Yemen, and so forth. And at this moment, I think there will be no pressure on Israel coming from the Western community. And obviously, if the Palestinians themselves are not going to go into intifada number 3, and if there is no comparable movements with the neighboring states, especially Lebanon, Syria, plus Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad. So in the absence of a movement on that track, I think the pressure is minimum, and we will see Netanyahu, even the U.S., are playing the linguistic interpretation of what each term means, and this, which has been actually an Israeli negotiating style, where they agree to something, then they are always in a process of defining and redefining all of the agreement. And then they would go into, more particular, what do we mean by settlement, what do we mean by, Jerusalem, and so on. And this has been going since Oslo, where they derailed it, and it led, as you know, to nowhere. So the current situation, in the absence of uprising or confrontation in the context of Arab-Israeli conflict, I think the pressure is not going to mount.
Now, Dr. Musa, you just brought up, excuse me, we're very limited, you just brought up without, for example, an intifada, you don't think that any pressure basically will be exerted on Israel. How likely is it that there will be another intifada, or something that will actually pressure Israeli hands into basically stopping the settlements?
No, I think it is growing now. I think people are Palestinians, I mean, and even in the West Bank are suffering every day, and the settlements are going on. And the violation of human rights, as you see it, is tremendous. And I think there is brewing discontent at this time, and the Islamic movements in Palestine, as well as the nationalist movements, are not going to sit and take it. So my own guess that in few months we will see an intifada, in the, especially if the Hamas Palestinian Authority at negotiation fails, which seem to be failing, as you know, and consequently I think the Palestinians are facing either Israel or a new intifada, which would be more likely. It may not be immediate, but it is not far away.
And Mr. Habeeb, how do you see this? Do you see any kind of reaction coming from the Arab community itself, or as the doctor just said, possible another intifada happening in the near future? What do you think it would take to force Israel's hand in this situation?
Well, the Arab stance is all the time very shameful, and it's all the time not able to deal with any situation. They have announced their announcement in 2002 for peace agreement was very clear, and then the Israelis rejected it, and the Israelis continue to offer this till this moment. I guess, as your guest said, there would be something in the Palestinian side, since the situation is still very drastic in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Still there is a siege in which people are dying and not able to get their basics in the Gaza Strip. In the West Bank we have more than 500 checkpoints and petrol points by the Israeli police, or making the life very difficult for the Palestinians. All these elements, with a political failure with the negotiation, failing to achieve a Palestinian independent state, I guess that would lead imminently into a direct confrontation with Israel, if not in the few months, the upcoming months, maybe the upcoming period, the upcoming year, will be witnessing something. But the situation would never be as stable as this, in which negotiation are not bringing anything for the Palestinians, and also the confrontation. So a confrontation would come, but it's a matter of time, since the Israelis are rejecting to give the Palestinians their own independent states.
Okay, and on that note, I thank you, Mr. Habeeb, and thank you, Dr. Musali, for being with us. We'll look at the Israeli settlement expansion. And as always, viewers, we thank you for being with us, and hopefully we'll see you right here same time tomorrow night for another look at tomorrow's top stories. Thank you so much. I'm Marzia Hashimi, signing out from Tehran. Goodbye.
So most of them haven't found any other chance but Gaza. Also, some of them cannot take out their machinery outside of Gaza, and that's why they couldn't leave the country. It's almost impossible to manage. Everybody knows that the sack of cement is the most important material in rebuilding the Gaza Strip. And once Israel is not allowing for any sack of cement to come to Gaza, that means we won't be able to rebuild our factories. According to our estimates, our latest study in the Palestinian Federation of Industries, 56% of our losses are encountered in the machinery. So 56% of the damage encountered in the machines. That means we need millions of dollars of worth of machines that should be